Mr. Stanissis, when you came to Saigon and when you visited Vietnam in general as a League delegate, what did you see? What did you find?
Upon my arrival in Vietnam, where the League had accepted a relief operation on behalf of displaced family, the first thing we did was to go around the country and trace where the real needy group of people were. First visit was paid in the Delta provinces together with Vietnamese members of the Red Cross.
And where did you go in the Delta?
The first province we visited wasIen Gian. This province was crowded with some 36,000 displaced families from areas where military operations were going on.
And for these refugees, these displaced persons, like you call them, was something done already?
No, absolutely nothing was done, because those displaced persons were outside camps, and people outside camps get no assistance whatsoever.
What do you mean by outside camps?
I mean that they were grouped in villages and not in camps, organized camps, which are organized by the Vietnamese authorities and the American authorities.
So how were they living there, these people?
They were living with the local inhabitants of the province, and they were given some assistance, a very mere assistance from the local inhabitants. Their general state was very poor. They had lost everything. They had left behind their crops and their personal belongings.
And so you came from Geneva as a League delegate, and now you were in the Delta. And what were the conditions you found there? Were the Red Crosses organized already when you arrived?
There were a few local committees. There was the regional committee of Canton, and there was a local committee in Rajia. The Rajia is the main city of theIen Gian province. And together with the members of this local committee, we went out country to trace the real needy families. We came across a group of families living on boats. Those were the floating group of displaced persons. They leave their villages when there is a military operation, and they take asylum in the big city. And then, when the military operations were over, they returned. So this group of displaced persons, we thought was the group that they needed some kind of assistance while they were transiting. And we did organize food distributions with the local committee, members of the local committee, and also particularly the youth which were ready to help without any counter payment.
So the voluntary of the Red Cross, do you mean?
Yes, they were not yet members of the Red Cross, but the future members of the Red Cross. A group of 30 youngsters, they helped us in registering the needy families, and the following days in distributing the relief supplies.
So these people living in boats, since your arrival there, they got food, milk distributions, and mats, clothes, and medical care through the Red Cross, through the League or through the Vietnamese Red Cross?
All those supplies are distributed jointly with the members of the Vietnamese Red Cross. The operation is led by the Vietnamese, and the League personnel is just helping the Vietnamese Red Cross. It's a Vietnamese Red Cross operation.
You saw the children there. How did you find them?
The children were in the worst state. They were practically naked, and some of them were suffering of what they call beriberi, which is comparable to kwashiorkor in Africa. and skin diseases, scabies, intestinal diseases. So we organized first the food distribution, which consisted of rice, consisted of condensed milk, some clothing and mats. Then a social and medical action started with our nurses which were provided by the British Red Cross. And the nurses work alongside with Vietnamese counterparts. We have also organized a floating dispensary in order to reach the isolated villages.
What do you call by floating dispensary?
It's a very small embarkation, very, very tiny small embarkation with a 6 horsepower engine, on which our nurse goes along with the 2 Vietnamese counterparts from village to village to give medical care. At the same time also they supervise the milk distribution stations.
And did you have the feeling that Red Cross was recognized by all parties there?
This was exactly the target of our mission and the usefulness of the floating dispensaries, that we get the people, all parties concerned, to know what the Red Cross was doing and how we were operating with our only Red Cross means.
So on this floating boat there was put a big Red Cross on it, and people, do you think, knew what it meant?
Yes, of course. We had the Red Cross emblem painted on the boats, as well as a flag, and by the action the people got to know what we were doing and how we were doing it.
Could you tell us a story of people you saw there, or some impressions, personal impressions, while you were in the Delta?
Yes, we came across a group of people who took asylum in a cemetery, and there was an aged woman there with 5 or 6 children, and she started crying when she saw us. So I asked the vice president of the Vietnamese Red Cross to interpret what she was saying, and he explained to me that this woman was complaining that many visitors came in that cemetery before us and promised help, but which help never came. So in order to calm her down, we promised that the following day food distributions were going to start, which they did. And I did see that person 2 months later, and she was feeling quite happy, and she told me that the Red Cross was the only organization that brought some help to the needy.
I see. Now that you are back in Geneva at the League headquarters, maybe you could give us a picture on the relief operations now in action in Vietnam.
Well, in the Rajia orIen Gian province, our distributions are over. We have touched something like 22,000 persons, but we still have a delegate doing the medical care. We have moved to other provinces in Vinh Long, where there were 7,000 needy persons, and we've started distributions. Then we've moved to Bac Lieu, that's the southern province of the Delta. We also have organized distribution in the center, in Kon Tum and Pleiku, and we foresee for the future further distributions in the 3rd, 1st and 2nd zone. But there the needs are not as urgent as in the Delta, because there are camps, organized camps, where the people get assistance.
And now the Vietnamese Red Cross is taking over.
Bit by bit, yes. And also it is a combined operation, the relief together with the development of the national society, because it is by the action that we will get the people to know what the Red Cross is.
Thank you, Mr. Stanissis.